What's up, YouTube fam? Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we're going to talk about the hidden power of selling options and why selling options is one of the smartest, if not the smartest, thing you can do for consistent profits to create a consistent income in the markets. So, with that being said, if you watched yesterday's episode, you would know that when this was happening, right, there was nothing we could do but sit and wait, right? I was not sure where this position would take us. I was not sure what would end up happening with this position, right? But I knew one thing. I knew that when you sell options, especially selling puts on good companies during earnings, you have a lot going on for you and you have a lot in your favor. So with that being said, one thing I don't think a lot of people can consider is when it comes to options, what's called IV crush. Now, I can't show you guys what this looked like yesterday, but it was at over 200%. I think it was at 232 to be exact. And just so you guys can see, I'll pull up a stock that has earnings later today, right? So you guys can see what I'm talking about with IV Crush, right? Because the reason why this is so important is because, a lot of people, they think when they get into options or just trading in general, they think, oh, it's a 50-50, right? Maybe I'll be right, maybe I'll be wrong. Here, see, 180%. And obviously, if we go deeper and out of the money, yeah. So, this stock is 180% on Lyft. It was over 230. And the reason why this is so important, right, is because it takes what you thought was a 50-50 shot and makes it just not, right? What does it do? It makes it, I don't know what the percentage would be, but a much higher percent that you're going to win as an option seller. I guess you can say the option chain actually tells you, right, since, it shows right here what the chance of profit is. So, like, even though I'm still in the money, they're giving me a 60% chance. Yesterday, I think this position was at like 70-80%. Now, obviously, we're in the profit right now. But the point being is, like, a lot of people think when they get into a trade, especially during earnings season, oh, it's a 50-50, and I might make 500%, 1,000%. Well, the answer is absolutely not, right? Because when you look at Lyft, the stock, right, the stock is down 7% today. So could you imagine how frustrated you would be if you bought puts up here, right? Basically exactly where I sold puts, out of the money, thinking, oh my God, we got a 7% dump. Let's go. We're going to be profitable. We're going to be rich. Just to find out that you're still down money on the option. To me, that would make me furious. Matter of fact, that has made me furious as someone who started my options career as a out of the money, zero day trader. And I think a lot of people do that, right? And I think the reason being is that they're undercapitalized, right? They get into option trading with a few $1,000s, and they say, "Oh, I need to save money. I don't want to spend a lot," right? So, like, for instance, let's just say hypothetically you were bullish on Lyft, you would probably say, "All right, let me go and look at some calls out of the money." Obviously, in this case, they're not really worth much, but even this case, right, going 10 days out, you're gonna be it's gonna be very appealing to buy this for $16. Oh, I'm only risking $16. And then, assuming you have, let's just say 1,000, what you'd probably do is end up throwing 10. So now you're throwing 160, and it's like, all right, now I can turn 160 into, 700-800. And that mentality, listen, maybe it'll work here and there, but that mentality is probably what's keeping you broke, truthfully. That mentality is probably why you're losing and you're frustrated as a trader. And I know that feeling all too well. And I think the shift you have to make is the shift of, like, trying to keep your capital out of the play for the ability to win the position, right? Like, I know I use sports betting analogies in the past, but, think about it like if you're betting a heavy favorite, let's just say the sports line gives you a minus 300, minus 400. Now, I know some of you aren't from America, and I know sports betting is different in other countries, but minus 300 basically means you would risk 300 to win 100. Now, obviously, you might say to yourself, oh, that sounds like a bad deal, but there's a reason why they're giving you that line, right? They're giving you that line because there's probably a 70 to 80% chance you're going to win that bet, which is what makes it in a lot of ways worth it, because you're probably going to win 3 or 4 before you lose. So even when you do lose, you'll either be break even or still up. Now, option selling is very similar, but option selling gives us even more, tools, right? It gives us more abilities. We have a lot more that we can see before we take positions, and ultimately, option selling is much smarter than sports betting. Now, with that being said, you can compare buying out of the money options, right, what typical people do, to, parlaying. Again, if you don't understand sports betting, I'm sorry. Maybe this is not going to be a good analogy for you. But a parlay is when you take a bunch of bets and you put it together so you get better odds, right? So like for instance, again, if you want to buy an out of the money SPY call that expires maybe Friday, it's going to be a lot cheaper, right? Obviously not as cheap as later today, but I don't even believe in zero date. Zero date was what I started when I was buying options, but at this point, the biggest moves just always happen either pre or post market. So to play zero date to me is just pointless. But again, something like this where it's so cheap, oh, I'm only risking 160. Yeah, that might seem appealing, but the chances of you losing that 160 are so high, right? Like it's almost like, are you ready to say goodbye to that 160, right? Now, of course, yes, you could turn that, it's already 155, that 155 into 300, 450, right, over the next couple of days. Yes, it's possible. I'm not going to say it's physically impossible. But the point I'm getting at is with option selling, yes, you're using a lot more money, but your chances of making money are so much higher. And also, if you buy an option and it expires worthless, the money's gone, right? There's no getting it back unless, you put more money into your account. If you sell an option, it goes against you, you're just stuck with shares. Or, if you're selling calls and it goes against you, you're just stuck with profit, right? Not only did you not lose money, you actually made money, right? The only way that you lose your shares when you sell covered calls is if you're losing them for a profit. Obviously, poor man's covered calls is a little different. That's why, we don't do them as much. We definitely do them, and we will be doing them again probably on Friday going into next week. But, the point being is, if you're selling puts, which is obviously my favorite strategy, and if you've been following, specifically selling puts on great companies during earnings is really what I love to do more than anything. Then it's like worst case, you're stuck with shares. Best case, it flies up and you're just getting premium. Like obviously in this case, again, Lyft dumped 7%. So it's like, I was wrong, right? And that's the difference, right? It's like if you're buying options, you're thinking in your head, oh, there's a 50-50 chance, and you're wrong, right? It's not a 50-50 chance. It's actually a much higher chance you lose. And if you're selling options, you also think it's a 50-50 chance. And again, you're wrong because there's so much of a higher chance you're going to win, especially selling out of the money puts during earnings due to IV crush. And that's what makes it so beautiful, right? It's like here we are dealing with a stock down 7% and we're still up money. Obviously, if we would have taken DoorDash, it's funny. I don't even know what we'd be up at this point, but when the market opened, we probably would have been up a lot. Now it's definitely falling back, but we would still be up, definitely. Again, I don't know the exact amount. I didn't put it in my watch list, and I'm not going to go look at the options and try to figure out which one we would have taken. But with all that being said, this is a secret that I don't think a lot of people are using. I think most people are getting into the markets with small amounts. They're trying to flip small accounts, and that's just not the way to go about it. Obviously, in this case, we're up 5.6% on the week. Listen, I don't think 5.6% every week selling options is reasonable. But when you have a week like this where, and I called this earlier on this channel, I called it on the first video of the week, that these are just a lot of my favorite companies between Shopify, DoorDash, Lyft. What I'm planning on playing tonight is Robinhood. And if it goes well, I'm planning on getting involved in DraftKings or Airbnb. So this week can literally end up being like an 8 to 10% week, which is just insane, right? You don't see that selling options often. But when you get these opportunities, you have to take advantage. And that's how the market is in general, right? The market, it gives you infinite opportunities to make money, infinite opportunities to lose money. You never know, actually, right, if you're going to make or lose money. All you know is what seems like a good opportunity, what seems like a high quality bet, right? You just take it from there. And to me, selling out of the money puts on a great company, like to me, there's nothing about it that makes it a low quality bet, because again, even if it dumps, your entry is still going to be better, and there's a high chance that the IV crush is going to save your position so you can get out without getting assigned, right? Like in this case, we are below our strike, right? Our strike is 1350, and we can close it right now for 175. And that's the thing, right? Before I started selling options, I thought very black and white of, it needs to be above my strike before expiration, or I have to buy the shares. It's just not the case, right? A lot of times, especially between theta and IV crush, you can get out for a profit when it's below your strike, and it's a beautiful thing, right? It's just so beautiful because it makes the game even more favorable to the player, as opposed to if my only option was to wait for expiration. Because, truth be told, who knows what Lyft's going to do in the next couple of days, right? The market is obviously dealing with a lot of things going on at the moment, right? A lot of speakers. Jerome Powell spoke twice in the last 2 days. You don't know what Donald Trump's going to tweet, right? in the end of the day, I don't know where Lyft's going to be by Friday, and I don't really care because I don't see myself holding this past today because I intend to get into Robinhood. Now, what's Robinhood doing? Let's pull it up. Right, and ultimately Robinhood, it's just looked unbelievable. Obviously you can say to yourself, oh, Jared doesn't look overbought. Yes and no, all right? Like, we're trending up. In my opinion, I always like things that are trending up because the market, I'm not going to steal this quote. There's a quote from a guy named Tom Hugard, Trader Tom, Best Loser Wins. He says, the market suffers from osmosis, which means whatever it's been doing, it's most likely going to continue doing. And I look at individual stocks like that, like Robinhood, like, do I really think earnings is going to send Robinhood down 30%? No. Like, I think if anything, it'll be similar to Lyft, where we get like a 15%, or less. So in terms of which Robinhood strike, I would look to be selling puts on. Let's just pull up the chart, right? Now, I don't plan on doing this for at least a couple hours. So let's see. To be honest, these premiums aren't incredible, but I'd probably go for like this one right here, the 52 or the 51, maybe even as low as the 50. Maybe I'll just do like 152, 151, sell both of these, and collect 300 for ideally one day. And that's the thing. The premiums look a little low, but it's also, got to keep in mind, it's also a Wednesday going to Thursday, so it's one day, 2 days. Someone asked me, why don't I sell puts later expiration? And my answer is that you could always roll, right? If I'm going to buy calls, I'd give myself an extra week, or buy puts, I'd give myself an extra week. But with selling options, I don't really ever see the benefit to going further out. It's funny because a lot of people on YouTube, they talk about how, you should sell options 45 days out. And I believe that advice is causing a lot of option sellers to end up losing, because option sellers, yes, time is your friend, but at the same time, the decay is your friend, right? With an option buyer, the decay is your mortal enemy. With an option seller, I like to say it's like having Thanos on your team. If you've never seen Avengers, then, you probably live under a rock. But, the theta is always going to win, right? Decay is always going to win. In the end of the day, like, obviously there are going to be options that you can buy and hold for a while and make money. And truthfully, the only way you're really going to do that is if you're buying in the money, which is why when I did buy leaps and do poor man's covered calls, it's always deep in the money, because that's what's going to save us. It's beautiful watching the account go up in real time, right? Watching our positions make more money in real time. And that's the beautiful part about this strategy, right? It doesn't require so much focus. It doesn't require so much energy. It just requires taking the play, having trust in it, not panicking, and letting it do its thing. So, if you watched yesterday's video, like I said, I loved just having the diversity. Like, obviously, I'm not going to lie and say, oh, I liked having the position go against us, but I like being able to show you guys real examples of what's happening in real time and how I manage it. So, I'm not going to close this lift position just yet, but I do anticipate closing it at some point today. I know some people followed me into the position, so do what you want with it at this point, but that's just my plan, is to eventually close it and then take Robinhood. But I hope you guys got a lot from this video. I hope you learned a lot. This is really just starting to become more and more advanced, more and more technical of option selling as time progresses. It's just becoming more and more fun as we zero in on the strategy. Obviously, we're at 5.7% this week, which is just insane. And after, Robinhood and Airbnb or DraftKings, we really could get to 8-9%, which would just be a ridiculous week for option selling. It's just, like I said, right now we're averaging, since we started this, this channel, we're averaging 3% per month. Now, not to get twisted, we've had a 20% month on this channel, but I made some big mistakes getting involved in stocks I should not have been touching, which cost us to lose a lot of that. So it's not like we're just making 3%. We're taking big swings, and we're having big wins and big losses. But, I've already recognized where I went wrong. If you've been with me, then you would know where I went wrong. Just trading quantum computing stocks and things that didn't really make sense, didn't have good revenue reports, things that didn't meet the criteria for us to be selling options on them. So, yeah, that's all you can do in this life, right? You can just take action, learn from your mistakes. I hope you guys have learned from your own mistakes. I hope you've learned from mine. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to comment your thoughts. Let me know what you're thinking about this trade, about the next couple of trades we're going to take. Let me know, just everything about your journey in general. I look forward to reading it. I look forward to, discussing it with other option sellers. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow in the next video.